Okay, here we are. Welcome to the Lead More, Manage Less podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am looking very scholarly today. I've been on my computer all day, but I'm hearing the same thing over and over and over again today. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a little podcast. I'm going to talk about this because if one person needs coaching on it, there's a whole bunch of us that needs coaching on it, right? Okay. So today on this episode, we're going to be talking about how do you make smart decisions under pressure? This is your leader's guide. Okay. And I don't care if you are responsible in managing yourself or responsible in managing a huge team. This is going to ring true for you. Welcome to Lead More, Manage Less. This is the podcast that helps women leaders stop doing it all and start leading strategically. I'm your host, Marilyn Dollar, the women's coach. I've got to get somebody to do my intro so I stop talking about myself in third person. Okay, today we're going to tackle something that every single leader I talk to faces, and that's making tough decisions when the pressure is on. But here's the thing. We're not going to talk about managing decisions. You can go through a workflow and figure out how you manage decisions. Instead, we're going to talk about how do you lead through them. Other people are watching how you're making your decisions, whether it's your kids, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your entire team at work, whether it's your peers, right? We want to see true leadership. That's what we're trying to bring to the forefront here. And I'm going to tell you how my little secret sauce coaching can help you. It'll help you not only have confidence, but it will help you make clear choices when things get complicated. A lot of my clients will tell me, I want to tell everybody about our coaching, but I kind of don't want to tell anybody because it's like my secret sauce, right? That is the best thing about the In-N-Out burger. It's the secret menu, right? We all know what it is, but we don't want to tell anybody else because maybe they don't know what it is. I love their fries. Just going to say. Okay. So let's talk about the decision challenge. Here's what I hear a lot from women leaders all the time. And they'll say something like, I know I need to make a decision, but I feel stuck. Or everyone's coming to me for the answers, and I'm not sure which way to go. Even the best leaders can get stuck and can get overwhelmed with decision fatigue. If this sounds familiar, keep listening. Even remember when Tropicana changed their orange juice packaging and you went to the grocery store and you're like, where's my orange juice? It used to be in this white container with a big orange on it and a straw, and they changed it and nobody bought it. Their sales plummeted 2 quarters in a row until they were able to switch back to their original packaging. Decision fatigue. There is a decision at every turn. Every thought is a decision. So let me ask you something. What if the key to making better decisions isn't about having all the answers, but about having the right framework so that you can think clearly when the pressure's on? Now, maybe you're going to the grocery store, it doesn't sound like pressure, but if you have a screaming child sitting in the grocery cart wanting all the candy, the pressure's on. If you have some disgruntled board members and they're reviewing your contract, the pressure's on. This is where high performance coaching comes in. And I'm going to share a story that might change how you think about decision making, maybe forever. Understanding high performance decision making. I want to talk a little bit about, before we dive into today's story, what really happens in your brain when you're under pressure. I scratched the surface a little bit, took a few neuroscience courses, and I actually got a certification for the neuroscience of the woman's brain from Dr. Sarah McKay. I think she's based in Australia. She's brilliant, amazing, a real neuroscientist. And here's what I've learned, among other things. When we're under pressure, it's like trying to drive through dense fog. You know the road is there, but you cannot see a thing. My first accident, I went to high school in Texas, Sugarland, Texas, and I was passing a car on my way to school in the fog. So dumb, I know. I think I was 15 and hit a car. What a surprise. So when you're thinking about driving through dense fog, there are some things you know, boundary wise. You don't pass in the fog. At 15, I didn't know that, but I do now. You know to stay in your lane, you know to slow down, but there's still quite a bit of uncertainty. What if the road turns? What if the road goes uphill, right? There's a lot. What if the car in front of you stops suddenly and you don't see it in time? A lot of uncertainty. And that's exactly what happens to our brain and the decision-making ability when we're stressed. It's like we're in this big vagueness, fogginess. We can't get clarity. But here's the good news. Just like a good GPS system, you can create clear pathways even when visibility is low. Even when you can't see the solution, you can create a way of finding it. So let me tell you about Kim. Love Kim. I think maybe you might relate to this. She ran operations at a shipping company and she loved it. She loved her job. She loved the people that she worked with. Everything moved at lightning speed. She was a high D, right? For those of you who listened to last week's podcast, on the disc scale, she was a high D. She loved moving fast. She loved how shipping and operations just clicked for her. And every day she looked forward to going to work because it was a new adventure. And that's what she loved. But one day she went into work and they had lost one of their biggest clients. So she's sitting in her office. She comes in, she's getting to work. She's been staring at spreadsheets, and suddenly they just look like they're in a foreign language. Her phone starts buzzing because now everybody knows that this client has gone to another shipping company. And people are texting her. They're worried. What's happening? What are we going to do? What's your strategy? And she starts to feel a knot in her stomach. It's getting tighter and tighter. And she's getting more and more anxious. And she calls me. And normally I don't take late night calls. And it wasn't that late. It was maybe 7 now. She's been working through this all day. And she says, I'm stuck. I'm frozen. I don't know what to do. I've always been the one with the answers. My team expects that from me. But right now, I I can't even figure out the next step on this spreadsheet I'm working on. Every decision feels like it could make or break us. And I can't afford to get this wrong. Okay. So I ask her, when's the last time you got a good night's sleep? Because high performance coaching isn't just about performance on the job. It looks at your entire life. It looks at your relationships. It looks at your health. It looks at your mental stamina. It looks at some business acuity, but it looks holistically across all of them. And sleep, we know, is a key element in order to balance the stress. When you don't get sleep, and for those of you who've coached with me, you know, I tell you this, if you get less than 6 hours of sleep, the plaque on your brain that builds up over the day does not get washed off. So think of 6 to 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's like when your brain goes into power wash mode, washes off all the telomeres, washes off all the gunk from the day, and you feel fresh and able to make good decisions the next day. If you have a string of nights, if any of you have ever had a child, that first year, you may have felt like a zombie because you weren't getting any sleep. That's what it feels like. And over time, the chronic depletion of not enough sleep can lead to brain fog. And that's where she was at. And I could tell that's where she was at because normally she's able to handle all of these things. So when I asked her, when's the last time you got a good night's sleep? There was this long pause and she laughed. The kind of laugh that's really more like a sigh. She's like, sleep. I can't even remember the last. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning running scenarios in my head. And you know what's worse? The less she slept, the harder it got to make even simple decisions. Can you relate? Have you laid in bed at 3 in the morning and thought, okay, here are all the scenarios. I need to get this done tomorrow. I need to get this strategically. If we don't make this move, this is going to cost us. And maybe 4:30 or 5 before you go back to sleep. You have definitely interrupted your sleep pattern. Maybe you're not in shipping like Kim, but I bet you've had those 3 a.m. moments staring at the ceiling or trying to keep your eyes closed so that you don't let any light in so that maybe you can fall asleep, but you're weighing options that all seem impossible. This is a real thing. I get it. It happens. And I have gotten coaching myself on this. And one of the things that I believe makes a difference, and this is what I really want you to hear. I said, let's talk a little bit about 5 areas that really transform decision making. Okay. 5 areas. Here you go. Number one, let's get crystal clear on your priority. It's probably going to be we need to find another client or try and save this one. Number two, let's build up your mental and physical strength. Mental, what can you do to start building confidence? Remember successes. Remember things people have said to you where you've made an impact and made a difference. Physical strength. Are you working out 30 to 45 minutes every single day in some size, shape, or form? Those two things alone can make all the difference. Number three, let's work on courage. Courage to make the tough calls. When is a time in your life that you've had to be courageous? Remember how you stepped through that. If you've ever had to learn how to drive a stick shift, took a lot of courage. My mom lasted one time with me in the car and she's like, I'm not driving with you ever again. I'm like, thanks, mom. And so my dad ended up driving with me and all the lurching and the stalls and the lurching. Finally, I got the clutch and the gas at the same time so the car didn't stall. But boy, it took me a long time, but I was able to do it. Number four, let's streamline your focus to what really matters. Take everything else off the table. If you need to try and save this client and or close a bigger client, focus on that. Don't focus on the spreadsheets. Don't focus on the office gossip. Focus on what really matters. Number five, let's improve how you bring your team along. That could be your family. If you're struggling with something right now, let your family know. Be vulnerable. Be transparent. Hey, you know what? I've got a really big deal going on at work right now. We just lost our biggest client, and I'm trying to figure out how to save them. I think I can do it. I really could use your support. Or tell your team, hey, I hear you. I see that you're struggling. We're going to do our very best to make this a go, to make this work. We have lots of clients. Let's see what we can do. And bring your team along on the decision-making journey so that they're kept informed instead of in fear. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about how you can make this work for you. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, this is a great story, but how do I actually do this? All right, here's 3 things you can do this week. 1, start tracking your best decision-making times. I have all my clients create a kudos folder on their desktop. Anytime somebody sends you an attaboy, a pat on the back, hey, this was a great job, or anytime you felt like you knocked it out of the park, write yourself a little note and drag it into the kudos folder for exactly times like these where you can see you did make a difference. Number 2, create a simple decision-making checklist. Remember the 5 things? Crystal clear on your priorities, mental, physical strength, do a check-in, work up your courage, focus on what matters, and communicate, right? That's have a simple decision-making checklist. And then number 3, build in some reflection time before you have to make big decisions, especially for those of us who are high Ds. Like I talked about, we like to make fast decisions. When it's a big decision, take some time. Think about it. Let it settle in. Sleep on it. Talk to your coach about it. Before we wrap up, here's your leadership challenge this week. Notice when you're making your best decisions. Notice your energy. Is it early in the morning? Is it after you've worked out? When I used to run on the lakefront, I could solve the world's problems running. That's probably my favorite time. Is it when you've had a good night's sleep? Do you get a solid 8 hours and you wake up in the morning and you're just feverishly writing all the ideas that you have? Start tracking this. Your energy, morning, afternoon, evening. This will help you discover what when your own peak decision-making time is. Schedule white space. I learned from Natalie Ellis. She's been in our mastermind now. I've met her a few times, and she has the system she uses, and she has white space, gray space, and black space. Black space, that's all the meetings that you have, the things you have to do, the dentist appointment you have to go to. Gray space, this is where you're working on your projects, you're doing spreadsheets, you're doing your finances. It's gray space. White space is creativity space. Maybe you're creating new clients. Maybe you're creating a new product. Maybe you're streamlining a process, but you need that white space just as much as the black space on your calendar. So as you think about when you have the best energy during your day, create some white space during that energy. That will help you start to come up with these bigger, more visionary thoughts, ideas, and solutions to some of these problems that hit all of us as leaders every day. And if you're ready to lead more and manage less while making better decisions under pressure, let's talk. You can find me at thewomenscoach.com, reach out on LinkedIn. And as always, please grab my 3 secrets to leading a team that gets it done. And the link is always in the show notes. It's on my website. It's on Instagram. It's on LinkedIn. It's so important that you get yourself out of this micromanaging fit and into leading so that your team feels like they can manage themselves and you can be the leader of the team. Thanks for joining me on Lead More, Manage Less. And until next time, remember, your team doesn't need another manager. They need a leader, and that leader is you. Have a great day.